So as I promised a while back, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about my collection, a lot of the movies I have, and I thought first and foremost we'd jump into one that I don't give as much love to as I probably should. The grandfather of the boutique labels, probably the biggest and most recognisable name out there, Criterion. And we're going to have a quick look, maybe quick, maybe not, through my collection. Now, I don't have a lot of titles in Criterion, about 40. We're going to go through them. There's a lot in this series that I haven't watched, and you guys are going to help me out by picking some that I really need to get to ASAP. Let's just dive in. I think I've got them organised in numerical order. OCD causes me to do things like that. Let's just dive in. So first up, we have Bottle Rocket by Wes Anderson. Now, I saw this years ago, and it was a movie that I didn't really connect with at all. In fact, I found that a lot with Anderson's movies, and I don't know if it was because of the time of my life or where I was in that part of my life that I couldn't really connect to it. But it's something that I've wanted to go back and revisit, especially as there's some Anderson movies out there that I really do love, you know, like The Grand Budapest Hotel or The Fantastic Mr. Fox. These movies are movies that I just adore. Next up we have numbers 14, 15 and 16, which is the Samurai Trilogy, and this is one that I know I'm going to love. Toshiro Mifune, and he'll appear later on in other movies as well. It's 3 samurai epics, and I picked it up way back when it first came out, and I got it in a ridiculous steal of a deal, and I ultimately just threw it in the pile going, I'll get to it at some point. Some point I will watch this, and I still haven't done it, which is something that I need to get to. Next up we've got number 39 in the Criterion Collection. That is Tokyo Drifter from Seijun Suzuki, and I've watched this one. It's a kind of pulpy western oddball of a movie that I just utterly loved. Starts off in kind of black and white, and I thought I know roughly what I'm going to get here, and I don't know if it's something that I'm going to love. Ultimately it becomes something that's just truly fantastic about finding your place, loyalty, the life of being a criminal on a loan, not having a gang. Is it worse to have a gang? Is it worse to rely on nobody? Really just a lot of fun. One of those really quick eBay pickups that I got a while back, Black Orpheus. This is number 48. Completely oblivious to this one. It was like about £5-6 on eBay, sealed, brand new, and I just picked it up. Number 52 and number 53, Sanjuro and Yojimbo. I love Yojimbo. I love Sanjuro. It's movies that I just recently watched within the past few months, and there is reviews on the channel somewhere for these two movies. I really like Yojimbo, but I felt it was a story that has been aped quite a lot throughout the years because it's such an easy story to manoeuvre into your own kind of story and retell it, and it's been done extremely well. Sanjuro was absolutely jaw-dropping, amazing, funny, bringing back this character that I absolutely adore. I thought it was wonderful, incredibly inventive. I love the comedic nature throughout this, but there was real stakes at it when it gets to the samurai action, when Mifune is unleashing his prowess, like when he's in the enemy camp and he has to kill them all. There's a sense of efficiency to his lethality, and then a kind of sadness to what he has done. He's a man who doesn't revel in killing, but kind of laments the fact that he's had to do these kind of things. Wonderful movies. Next up we've got Steve McQueen, who was in his 30s playing a teenager in The Blob, which has, I don't even know how to describe this, utterly ridiculous, perfect song that encapsulates the movie. A theme tune that's just awesome and ill-fitting, yet somehow works tremendously well. The Blob is indestructible, it's indescribable, and nothing can stop it. I love these pulpy 50s sci-fi movies. I think they're incredibly fun, and when they're done right, like this one, they can be immense. Next up we have another Wes Anderson one, and that is the Royal Tenenbaums. Again, I saw this one a few times when it came out, and I just could not connect to it at all. I'm waiting for the right afternoon when I'm in the right mood, and this one strikes me as something I need to check out. I remember the cast of characters, Gene Hackman, the red tracksuits for some reason, go-karts, and yeah, it just, as much as I remember those things, it never really stuck with me or made me want to revisit it at the time. But I've got a feeling that now I've changed over the years. Maybe my opinion on this movie has as well. Next up we've got number 280, which is The Sword of Doom, and this is one of those Zoom sale titles. It was £10. I picked it up because it just looks cool. I knew nothing about it. I still know nothing about it, and I'm hoping I'm going to get to it. Another Wes Anderson one, and one that I haven't seen, is The Life Aquatic. I love Bill Murray. This one looked like another strange oddball adventure, much more playful, much more fun, and the kind of thing that I'm sure I'm going to lean towards certain aspects of it. And I hope, I really want to love all of Wes Anderson's movies, but I'm struggling to get there. Now hopefully this will be another one that goes in the win column for me. Number 336 in the Criterion Collection, and one of my favourite movies of all time, Dazed and Confused. I was so happy when this got a UK release, and it's an amazing set, a really big booklet inside it. The movie is fantastic. I've loved it since I first discovered it in the mid-90s. It's just one of those movies, it's almost plotless, but just so infectiously fun and energetic, with a range of characters. It's just, going back to this one, there is one thing that it just niggles me ever so much about the movie that's brought it down over the years, and is the performance of Wiley Wiggins in the lead role. Everything else is perfect about it, you know, and I think back to that era, and maybe even just that Joseph Gordon-Levitt at that age would have nailed this one. It's a little bit odd in that performance, but man, this movie's just amazing. If you haven't seen Dazed and Confused, I can't rate it highly enough. Next up is another eBay purchase, and that is number 382. It is Overlord. I again know nothing about it. I think everybody bought this because it was crazy cheap on eBay for a while, and they had loads of copies of this thing, and from on the forums and things like that, everybody was just picking it up. Again, I know nothing. Next up we have Dennis Hopper's directorial movie, Easy Rider. Now this is one of those movies that I've picked up a few times. It's just a product of its time, of a feeling, of a movement, a change in filmmaking. It just encapsulates all these wonderful things. Terrific film, and one of the rare Criterions that I'd seen long before I picked up on disc. Next up is Jonathan Demme's Something Wild, a movie I haven't seen in the longest time. Jeff Daniels and Melanie Griffith in this one, and it's just a crazy love story. By the time Ray Liotta comes into this thing, I'm just sold. It's just wonderful. It's a connection of these two people who really shouldn't have that kind of connection type thing, but love strikes when it strikes, and it is infectious in this movie. Next up is number 591, and this would definitely be in my top 10 movies of all time. Every time I watch it, I just get enraptured with the movie. I utterly adore everything about it, from the filmmaking to the acting, and that is 12 Angry Men. This is a brilliant disc, and every time I put the disc on, I watch the extras with Sidney Lumet because I think it's terrific. I want to watch some of the supplemental material that's on here, but I just keep going to that feature and playing that over and over. I know it's got a TV version and other versions and that on it, but ultimately Henry Fonda is the lead role. It's just an utterly amazing movie. I love particularly the filmmaking, you know, to keep a story within one room and keep it so fresh, and have the camera do things that make it feel like the environment's getting darker and tighter. It's just wonderfully set up, and Another one, if you've never watched, never heard of, it's amazing. Next up, another bargain time, and that was 310 from Yuma. I do like my westerns. I had seen the remake by James Mangold before I've seen this one, and I just picked it up because it was a really crazy cheap price, and it never quite made it into the player. Number 677, and one that I've heard a lot about is The Uninvited. Now, I think I've seen this a long time ago. I love horror movies. This is a ghost story from 1944, and it's one that, as October rolls closer, is one that's definitely going to end up on my playlist, and I will be doing this soon, and there will be a review for it once I eventually watch it. Next up, we've got Polanski's Macbeth, another eBay purchase. You see a Criterion on eBay for like £5-6, you just feel as if you should pick it up. Number 736, and that is It Happened One Night. Clark Gable in this movie was the reason I picked it up. Again, it was another cheap one probably. I kind of like these early movies from the 30s that they seem to have a sense of whimsy, as well as having this tinge of like really dark moments within them. I don't know anything about this one. I don't know if it's got anything like that at all, but you know, it's a really quick watch, 105 minutes. It has some good actors in it, and something I'm curious about. Next up is number 738, and a movie that I remember as a young kid watching, and I loved it, and I remember certain aspects of it, certain segments, and it's almost like one of those movies I'm afraid to revisit in case it doesn't live up to my expectations. That movie is Tootsie, starring Dustin Hoffman, a struggling actor who creates this fake character who's suddenly successful. The only thing is everybody thinks it's a woman when really it's him in drag. I don't know how this is going to play. It's one of those movies I'm just terrified to watch it in case it doesn't live up to my expectations. I'm going to have to do it at some point. Next up is 764, and that is Terry Gilliam's The Fisher King, starring Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges. This movie was everywhere when I was growing up. Posters all over the video shops, just constantly advertised, constantly referenced in movies and in the books, TV shows, whatever. And that kind of constant presence put me away from checking this one out. And then it got to a point where, 25 years after the release, maybe more, I still haven't watched it, which is the reason I picked it up. And again, I don't know why, I just haven't put this one on as yet. Next up is 788, and that is Harold Lloyd and Speedy. I recently, in the past few years, got into silent movies, and Keaton in particular, and this was something that I was really curious about, the main reason to pick it up, and I still haven't watched it as yet. Again, another one I haven't checked out. Next up, we've got a Howard Hawks movies, and that's 806, and that is Only Angels Have Wings, Cary Grant, Jean Arthur, two actors that I utterly love. By the looks of it, it's a film noir. I'm terrible for not reading the backs of these things because usually it's Howard Hawks, Cary Grant, Jean Arthur. I don't need to know any more than that. It's just one of those movies I need to throw on at some point and just experience. It's just finding the time to do it. Next up, we have 810 and Humphrey Bogart and Nicholas Ray's A Lonely Place. And this one gets a really good name about it. I talked to a few people about this one, and they just, one of the guys just kind of ran through the entire plot of the movie, which really was kind of frustrating at the time because it put me off watching it. Just have somebody telling you every detail of a movie. It's so frustrating. But I've heard it's an amazing performance by Bogart, a very different role for him, and something that I'm curious about getting to. Next up is Here Comes Mr. Jordan, which is number 819. I believe this one is an almost someone dies and gets sent back to Earth to kind of fix things or fix relationships or something, and that's something that I love in movies. It happens a lot, and it's just one of those tropes, I guess, like it's a matter of life or death. those kind of movies, or Defend Your Life. You know, somebody in the afterlife has to like deal with what they've done during life, that just sparks like an idea in my head that really is something I enjoy. Next up, we've got 823, which is The Inlaws, which I've heard is ridiculously funny, completely outlandish. I think it's so someone working for the government and a dentist. Their children are getting married. They end up in a mission together by accident, and it's just supposed to be riotously funny. Again, another one I haven't gotten to as yet. The shame is most definitely real in this video. Thankfully, there's one that I have seen, and that is number 833, and it's Val Lewton's Cat People. I love this movie. Like I've said, I'm a fan of horror movies. I love these classic ones, especially when it's done with a really good director, with a really good sense of style, who knows what he's doing, in the way they play with shadows, sounds, and elements in this is just utterly wonderful. Next up is number 841, and an early purchase in my Criterion Collection is Lone Wolf and Cub series. Now, I saw Shogun Assassin years ago when Tarantino was touting it, and I just, you know, the idea of these movies just is something that I utterly love, something I want to check out. Now, I don't know why I never get to these movies like this in the Samurai Trilogy. It's not the fact that they're subtitled, I don't mind that. It's the fact that I feel like I can't just watch one. I need to watch them all, and who has the time for that realistically? And it's a shame that I have that compulsive disorder, almost, because I know I'm going to love these movies. I know they're going to be super interesting. They're genre specific, samurai, bloody movies. Yeah, I need a stretch of time where I can watch all of them. Next up, we've got Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love. Outstanding performances by Adam Sandler, Emily Watson. I haven't seen this one since it came out. Utterly just blew me away. I think Sandler was a revelation in this, and you know, he should have had more serious roles after that. It's a shame we didn't get anything until the very recent one by the Safdie brothers, which was utterly brilliant. But I'm looking forward to kind of checking this one out again at some point. Noah Baumbach in The Squid and the Whale. I think it was his debut movie. I saw this one again a long while ago. I liked it. It didn't really stick with me, but it was another cheap purchase, and just, you know, if you get a Criterion cheap, you take it. Number 864 is Hal Ashbys Being There. I really love this movie. I think Peter Sellers is tremendous as a man who's been locked away from the world, who's a little bit simple, who's never been deluged with all the no's and the naysayers of things he can and can't do, and just sees life as simply as possibly can, and has a wonderful job doing that. There's more to it than that, and I've got a review of this one coming up pretty soon, especially a discussion on the ending, which I think is it's up for discussion, but I see it as pretty clear, and we'll get to it. Number 868, and this was recommended to me by a friend, and that is Tampa, and this is basically a ramen western, I think they describe it as. I've not watched it. I don't know why I haven't watched it. Usually when friends recommend stuff, it's stuff that I genuinely do love. Hits a few of my sensibilities. I love eating. I love Western movies. I like noodles. I'm pretty sure I'm going to love this one. Kind of food porn, I believe, as well. I'm all up for this one. Number 888, and one of those ones I just picked up because of the price point. Really cheap, and I know it's a classic of sorts, and that is Tarkovsky's Stalker. I don't know much about it. I checked out the trailer. It looks rather weird and dystopian and very strange with its colours and its images. And I know nothing else about it. And it's one of those ones that it never really jumps out as put me on when I go to pick a movie. You know, if you know anything else about this one, or you think I should put it up there higher in the playlist, just let me know in the comments below. Okay, next up we have number 896. It's The Lure. It's a Polish musical mermaid horror movie. If that doesn't make you curious, I don't know what will. I utterly love this film. I've been screaming and shouting it all about it since I discovered it a couple of years ago. I think it's wonderfully catchy with its music. Its special effects are wonderful. The tale is really fun, and I think the two leads are mesmeric in their roles. Wonderfully fantastic and odd. A great release. Another Gilliam movie, this time 903, and that is Jabberwocky. Again, one that I haven't seen since the early 80s. Kind of medieval comedy movie, oddball from what I remember. And it's just one that I need to get back to and revisit at some point. Next up, another favourite of mine, and that is Night of the Living Dead in this lavish release. It's a wonderful addition from Criterion. If you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead, it's... why? Why haven't you? It's not overly graphic with its horror. It has a good social commentary at the heart of it. It's got wonderful action and set pieces, and it's just a fantastic creation from an independent filmmaker. Next up, we've got Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence, a movie that is so delightfully directed, so subtle and over the top in certain moments. That's just unbelievable, with amazing performances from all the leads. Wonderfully lavish production design and costuming in this one. Everything just comes together in this really fantastic tale of love lost, love torn asunder. Just an effective movie and what it's trying to convey. Number 925 is Midnight Cowboy. I utterly adore this movie. I love the relationship between the cowboy and Ratso. I think it's just brilliant. I think the characters are terrific. I think the tale of these two essentially just dreamers. One's always positive, one's always kind of negative, but together they have this connection to create a friendship. It's wildly funny and out of place and silly in parts. It has an ending that is really kind of downbeat and effective in what it's delivering to you. One that always takes my kind of breath away at the end of it, and one that I never really want them to go what happens. I want them to succeed in their final plan, and Midnight Cowboy is just terrific. Next up we have Steven Soderbergh, one of my favourite directors, and one of his movies, I think there's only two I haven't seen. It's getting daunting because I've left it so long now, and that's Sex, Lies and Videotape. Steven Soderbergh is a huge movie that was a breakout at Sundance. It got him his big break. Everything, great cast, wonderful reviews, and just for some reason, even though it's a director I love and I check out most of his movies, it's for some reason one that I just have never put in the machine and hit play on as yet. And this isn't the first time I've bought it. That's the collector's curse. Number 947 is Shampoo, Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, Goldie Horn. Again, really cheap bargain. Not much I really know about this one, so if you can enlighten me, let me know. And last, and one that I picked up because it looked really interesting. This is a recent pickup, but it was number 955, and it's Panic. I loved the kind of look of the trailer of a man wrongly accused, of the way certain scenes were filmed. It just kind of sparked my imagination and made me really curious about the film. Kind of felt like a film noir, which I'm not sure if it is or not, but 98 minutes, it's one I should get to sooner rather than later. So there we have it. That is my complete Criterion. Warts and all the movies that I've picked up that I haven't watched, all the classics that I've got sitting, all the excuses I've made to not watch these certain movies. Now I want you guys to shame me into watching some of them. I think over the course of August and September, or what's left of August and September, I should do, I don't know, maybe 5 reviews of these movies. So I want you to pick what I should be watching from these ones, and the ones that get the most kind of votes are the ones that I'm going to check out. Force me, shame me into watching these movies that I purchased a long while ago. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on My Wee Film.